Welcome to the show. It's the big day, Super Bowl Sunday. So we have to have a little bit of discussion regarding the game, but we'll also be talking some baseball, some Tigers.
Absolutely.
So
Because what pitchers and catchers report when? Like
like in three
next week?
days.
Like 3 days, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, look, it's coming up quick. They got some, Grapefruit League games at the end of the month, like 22nd, I think it was the first game for Grapefruit
Yep,
League.
yep.
So yeah, like the baseball's coming up fast. Obviously, today there's so much going on with the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Eagles. I don't really think there's anybody outside of Kansas City that wants the Chiefs to win. But that's what
Everybody,
happens when you kind of
yeah.
become a dynasty. So
Everybody's picking them to win, though. I shouldn't say everybody, but the majority, we'll call it
the majority.
85, 90% say that the Chiefs are going to win.
Yep. But we'll get into that in a little bit. I think first off, we just kind of wanted to talk about some Tigers real quick, right? There is, we got going on as far as the Tigers go is at the beginning of the season, everyone starts making predictions. So we just thought it'd be kind of fun to kind of go through some of the predictions that, these so-called experts were making and kind of see what we felt about those predictions. And yeah, I guess we'll just kind of start there, right?
Let's start there.
So let's start with some hometown predictions. Evan Petzold from the Detroit Free Press made 10 predictions for the Tigers.
Okay.
He posted this just today, this morning, actually, at 11:35, so a little more than an hour ago. So it's kind of brand new, and let's kind of see what he has to say, right? His first prediction is Skubal is going to repeat as the Cy Young winner. I mean, look, we all know Skubal is one of the best pitchers in the American League. It's not as if he can't. I think he has the ability to. But look, it's hard, right? It is so hard because that is there's so many good pitchers in the league. We keep talking about like how it's kind of a pitcher's league right now. And just to kind of like make a repeat of it, it's not taking anything away from Skubal, saying that he may not win back to back. But I mean, it'll be tough to do it. But he's, I'd say if I had to put a percentage on this, I would put it at 40%, which is still, I think, pretty good odds.
Still pretty good odds to begin. Yeah, for a season where pitchers and catchers hasn't been reported yet. I'd say I'll think he'll at least be in the top 3 in the votes for the Cy Young. I think would be reasonable.
I'd say the only way he won't, and I think this should be a caveat for any prediction, is injury. Right? If for some reason he gets injured and he couldn't play, right? I mean, obviously he's not going to be in the top 3. But just from like production, if he stays healthy, absolutely. I think that would be also the case. I think that's a pretty safe prediction, top 3. Another one is Parker Meadows will win a Gold Glove in center field. And we know Parker Meadows is a great center fielder.
Yep.
And the Tigers have not had a Gold Glove winner in center field since Gary Pettis way back in '89.
It's a long time.
But I mean, to keep in mind, when Parker Meadows got called up, his hitting was terrible, but he still had positive WAR because of the good defense that he played. Mm-hmm. So it is definitely possible that he wins a Gold Glove out there. He had a +5 defensive runs saved and +7 outs above average last year, right? So he could have been better, but I mean, obviously he did get sent down to AAA for 42 games, right?
He did.
So like those defensive runs and outs,
but it was for good reason because he was killing us at the plate.
Yeah, he couldn't hit. But no, I do believe that's possible. I mean, again, there's a lot of good center fielders out there, but Parker Meadows, and there's talent's not going to hold him back, right? It's just going to be the play of other people and potentially injury that's going to keep him out of that. So I think that's a pretty good prediction as well.
Excuse me.
So Colt Keith is changing positions. We know he's going to be at first base, and Colt Keith, he has predicted, going to hit 20 home runs this year.
Okay. So what do you think of the move to first base?
Yeah, you got to do it. I mean, after bringing in Gleyber Torres, right? Torres is going to take over second. He's a better fielder. Torkelson has not been hitting at all. Nope. Like you can't keep him at first base, right? So putting Colt Keith over there, who should be a better fielder than Torkelson, and at this point in time is a better hitter. It's kind of a no-brainer right now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, I want Torkelson to be the hitter we all expected when Lions drafted him, right? We want him to be that, but he hasn't been, and you just can't keep hoping that he becomes it. At some point, think he's got to make a change. And I think this is a good start. At least he's still on the team. If he starts making some turnaround, great, right? But if not, I think that he could also be on his way out. I thought that for a while. But I mean, Colt Keith, he hit only 13 home runs last year, but his hitting got better towards the end of the year.
He struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
He seemed like he got it together.
And I think that is a pretty good prediction. Again, no problem there.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Another prediction is Kerry Carpenter become an everyday player. So currently, Carpenter usually only plays against right-handed pitchers, there's a lot of right-handed pitchers, so he plays quite a bit, but he just hasn't done well against left-handed pitchers, and he hasn't really got a ton of opportunities. So, like, for example, he's got 134 plate appearances versus lefties versus 134 versus righties. That's total throughout his entire career. So, I mean, he's hitting 290 against righties with almost a 900 ops and a 202 with only a 588 ops against lefties. And that's the reason why he's basically only in versus right-handed pitchers.
That is weird. You would think, I always saw the ball better off a left-handed pitcher.
But you're batting right-handed. Carpenter's a left-handed pitcher.
Oh, he's a left-handed.
Or left-handed hitter, right?
I see it. I know.
So it's the opposite.
For some reason, I'm always thinking right-handed.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then, but anyway, so that was another prediction for him. This one, I hope this isn't true. Well, in a way I do, in a way I don't. But
okay.
This prediction is that Baez will perform better than Trey Sweeney. So
there's a part of me that says I'd love for that to be true. Only because of the freaking money we're paying him. And it'd be nice to get our money's worth, at least for this season.
Which is on the other side. I thought it'd be sweet too. Yeah.
Yeah. But on the other side, I'm like, play bad and just dumping.
Well,
just outright releasing.
If Sweeney performs better than Baez, that just means we got a younger player at that position, which is a win-win, right? I mean, Baez is 32. He's probably going to be, he'll be 33 toward, later on in the year or whatever.
Yep.
Sweeney is 24, right? So, like, to me, like that would be a win-win if Sweeney can perform better than Baez because we get younger at the position. So, yeah, I'm fine with it. But I'm not a fan of Baez in any capacity right now. Has not been able to even make good contact at all with the ball. He chases really bad pitches. And even in the field, he hasn't been the same. Trey Sweeney, I think, is more consistent. He may not make some dazzling plays that Baez once did, but he's more consistent. So to me, it's like, I don't know. Baez is better than Sweeney. Of course, I want Baez to play, but
yeah.
Then that would be an indictment on Sweeney, right? Yeah. What would we rather have? I don't know. That's why
I'd rather have like someone who's going to hit 220, 230, and it could be an average fielder, I guess.
So Jack Flaherty is the next prediction. He says that he'll have fewer than 15 starts. So,
wow.
Yep. And
well, I was going to say, he's going to get traded at the trade deadline to a team that's going to make a push for the playoffs.
Potentially, right? But I think they this year they signed Flaherty to a 2-year deal.
They did.
The second year is actually a player's option, not a team option. So if Flaherty wants to stay under contract with the Tigers, he could invoke that, player clause and get signed for the second year. So I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he gets traded. But after the performance and how the Tigers finished and how far they've, went in the playoffs, you have to imagine that they signed Flaherty hoping that Flaherty would be there to help them in the playoffs, even though Flaherty performed poorly with the Dodgers during their World Series run. You got to, you just have to think that that's what their hope is. So I think in this case, this season coming up, if Flaherty, if the Tigers are doing well and they're going to be, in the playoff hunt, Flaherty's not going to go nowhere, right? I mean, the only time I think Flaherty has a chance of being traded is if the Tigers, for some reason, completely just tank it this year. But Flaherty's 29 years old, and he has to make 15 starts to turn the $10 million player option that he'll have in 2026 into a $20 million option, right? So he'll get more money if he does get 15 starts this year.
Well, 15 starts over 162 games, 162. Wait, 162
Yeah,
games.
It's 162. Yeah.
To me, that makes, even with injuries, 15 starts can be feasible, but how many innings do they have to pitch before it's a start? Is it 5?
Just no, that's before they get the credit for the win or the loss. All
Oh,
they gotta do
win
is
or
just
loss.
start the game for it to be a
Okay.
start, right? Like it's
Okay.
almost like
Okay.
football. If a quarterback or someone just plays one play,
Okay.
they
All right.
started.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so the from what I've read, the Tigers don't have concerns over his health currently, but he did have a lot of pain and struggles, right, in 2024, specifically back pain, and that's always concerning, right? Because that's
Absolutely.
one thing that you can't fix. They just
Especially as you
keep
get older.
injecting you.
Yeah. And there's only so many of those they're going to give you.
So next prediction. This one isn't great, but he predicts Jackson Jobe will have an ERA above 4. So now, of course, he did come up and he played a couple games in September, right?
He did. Yep.
And his best experience was throwing 4 scoreless innings with a walk and 2 strikeouts. However, he didn't do well before then. So just keep Jackson Jobe in mind because there's a couple predictions from others around the country that would not support this. All right. So this is Jackson Jobe. He predicts, 4 point over a 4. Okay. Next prediction. The bullpen ERA will be worse than 15th in Major League Baseball. That would be a huge step back considering last year, out of 30 teams, they had a 3.55 ERA. All right. And that was good for 5th best. So the bullpen was good. Now, the reason why he says that they'll be around 15th or worse is because of the FIP. Because with the FIP, it's a stat that specifically looks at walks, strikeouts, and home runs given up, was a 3.84, and that ranked 11th. And just because of the FIP metric and the expected FIP, he's saying that if you look at these advanced metrics, the Tigers bullpen wasn't as good as what they actually produced. Like they overachieved.
I think the Tigers kind of overachieved a lot at the end of after the break last
They
year.
did. They did.
But it's what it was. It was good to
But
see.
I don't necessarily like agree with this. Again, I think Chris Fetter being able to coach up um the pitchers, right? Like he's been really good, and plus the people that they got for relievers, right? They picked up Tommy Canley, and then they still got Holton, they got Vest, Jason Foley, and Bo Brisk, right? Those are the ones that we know for sure is going to be on the opening day roster. So the problem is, from what they're saying, or this specific writer is saying, is the strikeout percentage. The Tigers relievers don't have a good strikeout percentage, and that's the red flag for him and why they will be worse than 15th in ERA. Next prediction, Tigers will not win more than 86 games. And that's what they won last year, was 86. And he's quoting the record from August to September at 31-11 as the Tigers needed that to get to 86 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But they're saying that that's not going to be a repeat in this coming year. So he thinks they're going to win 84. Now, one prediction I saved for last because I want to talk more about it. I want to put a little more time into it. Is he believes that Riley Green will finish in the top 5 for the American League MVP voting. All right. So he says, that Riley Green, he'll be 25 in September. Right. So that's pretty much like when the season's already over. So he's 24 now, will be 25 when the season's basically over. And he was one of 5 American League players aged 25 or younger with at least an 800 ops last year. And he had an 827 ops. So that's on par with, say, Juan Soto, Bobby Witt Jr., Vladimir Guerrero, and Gunnar Henderson, right? Those are 5 guys who were younger than 25 that had over 800 ops. But yeah, so that's, but let's look at it a little bit more. Let's dig into some deeper stats. All these stats matter, right? His ground ball rate went from 56.8% all the way down to 43.6%. One of the biggest knocks on Green back when he got called up as a rookie was, again, him just hitting the ball too much on the ground, almost 57% of the time. Now it's down to 43.6%. And his fly ball rate went from 19.3% to 27.7%, right? So that's a huge jump in fly ball rate. But his strikeout rate dropped from 28% down to 26%, and his walk rate went up from 8% to 11%. So if Riley Green can continue some of those trends as far as improving his offensive profile and stay healthy, yeah, I can see him potentially being MVP caliber. But let's look at a couple more statistics here, okay? Barrel rate. To me, I think this is a metric that's kind of overlooked by some people, because what you want is you want to be able to get a good barrel on the ball, right? That's if you hit on the handle, it's not going to be a great hit, right? So barrel rate, it went to the 90th percentile in Major League Baseball, right? Like that's phenomenal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Only 10% of the players actually had better barrel rates than Riley Green in all of baseball last year. And again, we talked about his walk rate, but his chase rate, we didn't talk about his chase rate. We talked about strikeout rate, not chase rate. His chase rate dropped from 26.5% down to 23.1%. So that's, almost 3.5% improvement just on chase rate.
Yeah.
Again,
but you think's gotta help with the strikeout rate.
That's exactly what it does. It helps with strikeout rate.
One correlates with the other.
It certainly does. So for me, these advanced metrics, also just looking at the current metrics, are all positive reasons as to why he can make the next, another jump next year. Like, he could hit 25. I don't know. And 30 might be, topping out his ability to, as far as home runs go. But I would say 30 home runs isn't out of his range. He could probably hit 30, but that's probably a ceiling, right? But he could be a 25 home run guy, and plus he plays above average defense in left field. Like, he could definitely be an MVP caliber. And in fact, I think that, he potentially could. I mean, SI.com, when they're talking about their predictions for the Tigers, they have him being in the running for MVP. That's one of their predictions as well.
Okay.
So, yes.
Well,
and
some people
and the last thing we
got
to talk about for Riley Green as to why, right? The last thing, it's not just the statistics, but the team around him is going to get better, right? So you got Colt Keith coming back for a full season, and hopefully he picks up where he left off at the end of last year, hitting the ball. Kerry Carper is going to come back. He's no longer injured.
Parker Meadows is playing better ball.
Parker Meadows is playing better ball, especially in the offensive plate. You signed Gleyber Torres.
Yep.
Right? You're still in the mix to get Alex Bregman. That might still happen, right? But yeah, and so since the supporting cast gets better, we saw what that happened with Ohtani. Not that Green's going to be Ohtani, just that you saw what he did going from a team that didn't have a lot of protection around him with the Angels to a team that has a ton of protection around him with the Dodgers, and just looked at how much better he did, right? Like, we kind of see improvement in Green statistics because of that more protection as well.
Yeah. Well, you don't put all that weight on one guy to get something done when he knows, like, hey, I can, if I strike out, there's a guy behind me that can get on base, right? It's not where it relaxes you. And when you can go up and do your job and there's less stress, and that's in any job. We're not even talking sports, any job. It makes you feel better about what you're doing.
So I want to do one more thing with the Tigers. All right. So of course I love Riley Green. I love Skubal and stuff like that. But I do have a player that I personally have a lot of respect for that plays on the Tigers, that if somebody's listening to this, they may not be able to guess who it is. So tell them who it is, brother. Who's a player on there that I like a ton for the Tigers that may not?
Vierling.
There you go. I got a Vierling story for you. You ready for this?
Yeah.
So there's a podcast that gets out there. And so Vierling was on this podcast. It's called Days of Roar. Okay. So it's a Free Press Detroit Tigers podcast.
Okay.
So Vierling was on this, and Vierling was talking about, like, towards the end of the year, the guy, I'm sorry, I don't really know their names, and I apologize because I haven't heard about this podcast till just now, actually. But one of the people on the show said that he was driving down the road, looked to his left, and just happened to see Vierling in a car, and he was surprised to see the car that Vierling was driving. Now, look, this is almost an impossible task. Almost impossible, but I'm going to put you on the spot. What kind of car do you think Vierling drives?
I don't know. Let's go an old Ford or F1.
I mean, look, when you say old, what are we talking about for old? Give me a year.
Late 90s, early 2000.
Okay. Look, I mean, honestly, it's a better guess than I probably would have given. He drives a 2012 Ford Escape.
So the Escape I would never have guessed.
Yes. So what he said was when he was 16, he had 2008 Ford Escape. All right. And he said his family just drives Escapes. He says he doesn't really know why. That's just what they drive. Right. So he had 2008 Ford Escape. Well, when Vierling went to Notre Dame for college, his mom said, look, you have to get a different vehicle. Right. So he ended up getting a 2012 Ford Escape. Like that was his vehicle. And he just had that ever since. He's never bought another vehicle, never upgraded. Ford Escape was his vehicle. And he says he loves that car and is basically going to drive until the wheels fall off. And he told a story about right towards the end of the season before the playoffs that he was driving home. He left the stadium late, 11 o'clock at night. He was 2 miles from the stadium and his Escape broke down. And so like throughout all the playoffs last year, he was driving a rental car as he was getting his 2012 Ford Escape like fixed, right? So like that was kind of funny, right? Like
He's not a little guy, right?
No, he's not a little guy. No,
He's like 6. I think he's at least 6 foot.
so Vierling is, I don't remember how his height. I'm looking at it now. 6'3". That's
6'3". Okay,
dude. He's 6'3".
all right.
Yeah,
So I'm going to tell you right now, our mom drives in this Ford Escape, and there is not any room in that thing. There's zero room, and I'm 6'1", right? I am 6'1". Okay,
and I'm 6 foot.
You're just jealous because you're not there.
And if you're 6'1", I'm 6 foot. That's what we'll say. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm over 6 foot tall.
You are over 6 feet tall. Yeah.
I am over. And I'm like, wow, 3/16 of an inch of 6'1". But either way, I just say 6'1", makes it easier. And I like being taller.
And that's what it is. You want to be taller.
I like to be taller. But I've driven Mom's Escape and put the seat where I wanted, and that thing is cramped. And Mom's is, I think, a 2012.
I think it is too. Yeah.
So I'm driving the same vehicle, or I have driven the same vehicle.
Driven. Yeah.
That Vierling drives, and I am not comfortable in it at all.
Yeah. But look, I think that's why I like Vierling. I mean, I liked him for his versatility, but man, talk about being a down to earth guy. And they even asked him on the podcast, right? Like if, because now, he got a little bit of a raise, well, that's a nice raise, because of arbitration, if he was going to get a new car. And he's like, no. And he even said that his girlfriend won't ride with him in it because she's embarrassed to be in the 2012 Ford Escape. But anyway, I just don't know. Like,
he needs to get a new girlfriend then.
I agree.
I mean, it's what it is. You don't have to spend a lot of money, to be important. Drive what you're comfortable. But that's not the first time I've heard a story of a pro athlete driving a car.
Well, wasn't it Barry Sanders that drove like a Ford Focus or something for like all 10 years when he played or something like that?
There was somebody like drove. There's a story, what we would have called a hoopty.
Yeah.
Because this thing was just, and it was a football player, and I couldn't tell you who it was, but drove this car, and it's not even what I would have expected. Maybe he only drove it to work and he had the good car when he went out at night. I don't know. But yeah, just that's a cool story. It's a very cool story.
And the stories like that, just look, oftentimes we don't really get a sneak peek into like personal lives of players, right? I mean,
to me, that's a sense of who he really is.
Yes.
Right?
I agree.
That's an inside look of who Vierling is. And that's a guy that we could probably go sit and have a beer with and have a good time.
So, hey, Vierling, invitation for you. Let's get together, right?
Let's get together.
Anyway.
We'll meet you at the stadium. And how's this? I'll buy the first round.
Oh, hey, I'll get the second round then.
There you go.
So, Vierling, 2 beers, right?
Let's get us started.
Anyway, so let's transition off of baseball. We'll definitely come back to it like later on. You know how much I love baseball. We're definitely talking a lot of it during the season.
It's February. Pitchers and catchers are reporting. Preseason games are starting. The season's here a month. The season's in a month. So
yeah,
and the Tigers are starting their first game of the season is against the Dodgers
in LA.
Yep.
So now that you brought that up, I have to go into one more thing because it's your fault, right? Like I was trying to transition, so this is your fault.
I was trying to wrap it up.
You did not. No, that was a poor job because you brought up something new. So before we were getting on the air, right? Like in the last show, we talked about how the Dodgers would be playing the Cubs in Japan, just to start the league off, right? Like last year they were in
Correct.
Korea, now they're going to be in Japan.
Yeah.
And you asked like who the starting pitcher I thought, or for the Dodgers are going to be, right? So I said I thought it'd be Yamamoto, right? And I said because when you have Roki Sasaki, he's not going to make his first start in such a game for opening day, right?
Right.
So
And Otani's not going to pitch till May.
and Otani's not going to pitch, and if you're in Japan, right? So you would expect that
when you have
that
as many Japanese players pitching that the Dodgers do, that one of them is going to start.
And my assumption would be wrong.
Yeah.
Right now, yes. Right now, Com currently has. Oh, I'm sorry. I typed in 2025 and they gave me 2024. I apologize. But this was written on it, in 2025, in February 6th, but they were just talking about the 2024 starters.
Okay.
Anyway, it might be Tyler Glass now, is what I guess could potentially be. Anyway, I still think it's going to be Yamamoto starting. It just makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to fill the seats anyway because the Dodgers are going to be in town and they're a team that's known worldwide. So
yeah,
that would be a good bet. How's it?
Anyway, so that's all I was just going to say is I thought that it was going to be Tyler Glass now after what I read, but anyway.
Who knows?
Who knows? I still think Yamamoto, but okay, there we go. Now I just want to bring that up.
Okay, now we'll transition.
Okay. So
I won't say anything else about baseball then.
Yeah, because you'll get me down another tangent, another little. And I had to look up Matt Villion's girlfriend just because I was curious after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her name's Allie Thomas, but okay, it's Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. We have it's a game that some people might know about. I don't know if everybody does.
Yeah.
It's not like a holiday or anything.
Yeah, everyone, well, they're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying to, make Monday a holiday. Or what they should do is just move it to Saturday. We won't have to worry about it.
That'll never happen.
Never happen.
I agree with you, but it'll never happen. But look, we got the Super Bowl. I don't really know if we're going to say anything that hasn't already been said, right? Because the Super Bowl is going to be analyzed by tens of thousands of people, right? They're going to have hundreds of thousands of different takes on it.
Conspiracy. It's going to be there.
Well, anytime you're playing the Chiefs, there's going to be tons of conspiracies.
That's
right?
true.
Because, let's face it. Whether you like it or not, the Chiefs have been on the positive side of a lot of different calls. Borderline calls always seem to go the Chiefs' way. And it's not just calls that, are small penalties, right? Usually they're impactful penalties that give them automatic first downs. And a lot of times they happen towards the end of the game where it benefits them one way or another, either on offense or on defense, right? It benefits them in some way. So, that can't be denied. That is there. That is a fact. Now, whether you believe the NFL is rigged or not, it's a whole different thing. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that's your own belief. But you cannot in any way dispute that the Chiefs have been on the positive side of these calls. Way more than they've been on the negative side.
2 years ago when the Eagles and Chiefs played, it was a close game, right? And minus we'll call it the one fumble that got returned for a touchdown. Jalen Hurts fumbled the ball and it was returned by the Chiefs for a touchdown. Right. That was a game-changing play. Right. There was a holding call that went against the Eagles late that helped the Chiefs. Again, one of those plays, right? That as you look at it, you're like, I've seen really bad holding calls that didn't get called. How's that? And then he's in the 2-yard zone and had his hands on him. I didn't even see him grab a jersey and they called a holding penalty. So,
right. Yep.
It was an interesting call and it was one that changed that game again. Right. So it's hard for me. I have no skin in this game. Right. And if both teams could lose, that'd be fantastic, right? And we just skip this year's Super Bowl and we'll go on to next year's Super Bowl. But if a team's going to win, I want it to be a good game. And in the end, I don't want the refs to make a call that's going to change the game. I mean, I want them to make the correct calls or calls, but so I don't want them to not throw a flag on something, kind of, what was it, the Saints? One of the playoffs game, pass interference that they didn't call on us, and whatever. I don't want that kind of game, but I also don't want a call or a penalty to change the game.
So this is where you and I differ. I agree with you when you're talking about as far as having consistent calls and calling when it's actually penalty. 100%.
Correct.
No problem with that whatsoever. The only thing I'll say is I don't care about a close game, a good game. I honestly want the Eagles to blow the Chiefs out of the water. I want the final score to be like 63-3. I just want the Eagles to absolutely demolish the Chiefs. All the conversation surrounding the Chiefs just to cease to exist. I want them to lose so badly they decide to trade away 3 or 4 players, whatever, just blow up the team. I don't want to hear about the Chiefs no more. Just completely demolish them. I want the Eagles to manhandle them in every way possible. I don't want to have a close game where it's the fourth quarter, 2 minutes left, Patrick Mahomes has the ball in his hands, and then the refs have a chance to call a penalty that in some way helps the Chiefs, and then we have to go through and listen to another 6 months of conspiracy theories surrounding the Chiefs during the offseason. I don't want none of that. I just want the Eagles to come out and just demolish them from the very get-go.
Yep. And yeah, any game that's going to be close within one score, that's to the Chiefs' advantage.
Well, there was something I read, and I don't think I'd mentioned it in the last podcast that we did talking about this game. So they looked at all the like fourth quarter and overtime drives where, a team had a chance to come back and either tie or win the game with the final possession. And like Tom Brady, one of the best ever to do it, was like 60 some odd % successful in doing it. He had like 15 drives, whatever it was, like, I don't know, like 8, 9, so whatever it was, right? And they went through and listed everybody. Patrick Mahomes is 7 for 7. Like, he's never lost a game-winning drive in the playoffs, ever. So, like, when you're saying that it's in the Chiefs' favor if it's a one score, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't want to be close.
Right. And another stat to go with that is that the Chiefs have won 17 consecutive one-score games. That's a record for the NFL. That's including the playoffs. So, yeah, if it's tight, it's got to be 9 points or better, right? If for the Eagles to win, it's going to come down to Saquon Barkley getting the ball. Jalen Hurts needs to get rid of the ball accurately and on time, right? He can't hold it. So he's either going to tuck and run or he's got to get rid of it, right? And that off A.J. Brown or Devontae Adams, one of them's going to have a good game, right?
I think for me, I think the key, if I had to pick because, I mean, don't get me wrong, what you said is absolutely correct. There's nothing wrong. I don't disagree with it, but I just don't think that's my number one thing that has to go right for them, right? That's not number one. For me, number one is Eagles' defensive line. If they're going to be able to stop the run, but specifically pressure Mahomes, right? That, I think, is going to be a bigger key than any other key to the game. And you mentioned that Graham was coming back. He got activated for this game, right? So that can't hurt at all. But yes, to me, that's number one.
So, and I get why you say that, right? Because I would say that too, right? But Pat Mahomes runs, he just improvises. So even the defensive line, they have to be able to contain him. They can't let him get outside.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't leave the middle open for him to step up because he will, right? Unless you're going to leave a linebacker back that's going to be a spy, right? So got to be able to do that. But on the other side of that, I think the reason I went offensively, usually I would go defensively, but is because it's ball control. And you keep them off the field, I don't have to worry about containing him because he's not on the field.
I mean, again, your logic is sound.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I'll say the logic fails, right? Because if I'm looking at the comparing players, quarterbacks, etc., right? Offense versus offense. I would have to give the nod to Kansas City. Okay. And so if you're talking having a shootout, who would I then put money on if I gambled, which I don't, but who would I then put money on in a shootout between those two teams? Well, it'd be Kansas City. So I don't care if it's just 4 possessions, right? Hypothetically, if it never happened this way, but if you're talking about just 4 possessions per team and they each get 20, or they each have a potential of 28 points, who do I think would actually get the 4 scores and come away with 28 points? I'd say it'd be Kansas City, right? Like, that's why, again, I would have to say my number one key for the game would be the defensive line, because at least if I had to guess what Kansas City's defensive game plan would be, it would be to stop Saquon, make Jalen Hurts beat you, right? So if your game plan is to stop Saquon, and let's just say they're successful at stopping Saquon because that's who they're focusing on, again, like, I don't know. You just have to be able to match them defensively, I think. So it has to be defense.
Either way, these are the discussions that the coaching staffs are having, right? The same thing we're talking about.
Right.
Like, we have to be able to do this. You have to be able to do that. And then if we can do that together, we're going to win this game.
Yep. Well, like what Dan Campbell always said, he's talking about injuries. Like, 1 week we're going to ask the offense to put a little bit more into it, right? When the defense is struggling, 1 week when the offense is struggling, ask the defense to give us a little more, but one way or another, we're going to have, like, whatever it takes to reach that 100% for a win, right? Like, how we juggle it around between offense, defense, special teams, it's going to get that 100% for us to win.
Right.
And so there's definitely going to be doing it that way. But I think the defensive line for the Eagles has the talent and the people to do what we're saying. They have the talent to stop the run. They have the talent to put pressure on Mahomes, right? Like, I think if there's any defensive line in the league that could do that, it'd be the Eagles.
Absolutely. And then they got their young DBs back there. They're playing really well. Overall, the Eagles are built better this time than they were 2 years ago.
Yes, you're right.
I think they are built to beat a team like the Chiefs. So I just think they need to put it together, stay focused, and get the job done.
So I want to bring up a player on the Eagles, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Obviously, he played 1 year with the Lions.
Yeah, after he came from the Eagles, and then he went back to the Eagles.
So, of course, he's being interviewed, and he was asked about his time with the Lions. And so, did you see this at all? What his quote was?
They lied to him? Is that what it was?
Yeah. So, but he actually said it was hell, right? And he said that because he said that he felt he got lied to because he was told they're going to bring him back, and they did not. So, but he did. But in the end, he did say that his one season in Detroit was a successful season, right? But he just didn't appreciate, I guess he felt that he was lied to.
Well, why didn't they bring him back, right? There was something that they didn't like about him. It was either the money that he was asking, or he was not a fit for the culture that the Lions were trying to build.
Personally, I'm looking at the people that they want to play safety between Iffy,
yep,
right, Brian Branch,
Joseph.
But Joseph, I think, is the key. Joseph broke out, right?
Yeah.
Like, what was he, a 3rd round draft pick, 4th round? He wasn't a high draft pick, right?
No, he wasn't.
And he was starting to break out. If he broke out, especially, his ability to rush the passer, he got some key sacks and stuff like that. And then Brian Branch, of course, he thrives more in the safety. Like, he plays a good nickel. I don't want to take anything away, right? But he thrives in the safety role. So you already have 3 players like that, right? So trying to find, the cap space and then just the play time for CJ, because it's not like CJ's a bad player, but what do you do with the guy? I just think it's the personnel. I just don't think there was room for him on the roster, is what I think, just looking at it.
Well, exactly, right? I mean, if he had some issues this year just because he was hurt, right? And then when he came back out, it was one of those Emmanuel Mosley things. He came out, played a little bit, and then got hurt. So
many Lions players got hurt. And I think, because Branch, moving him from, the safety back, down to more a nickel, like, all like he's not playing out of position, just not the position that's best for him as well. So
Yeah. Mm. But yeah, it's, you know, I just, maybe I took it a little too personally about what he was saying. Well, what Gardner Johnson was saying about the Lions. I'm like, maybe it was you, right? I don't know. It didn't work out. And now you're in the Super Bowl. So congratulations to you.
exactly, right? Like it worked out for
Right?
you.
You left and they were in the Super Bowl. You came with us a year. Now they're back in the Super Bowl. Great. Fantastic. But I know, so kind of back to the Eagles and the actual game itself. I'm going to predict it's a 10-point win for the Eagles. So I'm going to go 32-22. And again, it's more than one score. That's it. Me, it's got to be more than one score if they're going to lose. Or I'm sorry, if the Eagles are going to win, it's got to be more than one score.
That's fair. That's fair.
And then Saquon Barkley gets the MVP.
I think that'd be awesome. I don't know. I don't feel as confident as you, but I'm still going to go with an Eagles win just because I can't say that our team wins. Like I can't put those words. Like they can't come out of my mouth. So the Eagles win.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And
yeah.
I'll just say it's going to be, I'll say 34-24. No, you said 10 points. I'll say 34-17. I don't know. I don't really care. As long as the Eagles win, I don't
double them
care.
up. All right, I like it.
Just let's go Eagles. I don't care.
Yeah,
and
it's hard for me to say that too, so I'm not gonna say let's go Eagles. But if I want the Chiefs to lose, therefore by default of me saying that means the other team has to win. And that's where I'm
fine with Saquon Barkley being MVP. I'm 100% fine with it. I like Saquon Barkley, and I think after the way he got treated, right, like with the Giants, I'm perfect, right? Like that would be perfect way for him to finish the season, and nothing against him at all. But just because I'm talking about the defensive line so much, I'm going to say the MVP is going to be Jalen Carter with 3 sacks.
Jalen Carter, see? Wow.
He's going to have 3 sacks, one of the sacks being a strip sack.
Okay. That's fantastic. I'd love to see that. So, all right. Well, I have a turkey I have to smoke, and I have to have it done by 5:30.
Yeah.
So I know but I gotta wrap this up.
That's cool. Hey,
I got stuff I gotta do.
One last thing, and I'm sorry, it has to be said. It's quick though.
All right.
We got over 100 subscribers. I want to thank all of you for getting us to this point. It was a very slow movement, but look, we appreciate every one of you. Yeah. So thank you for 100 subscribers, and hopefully you enjoy our videos going forward. And again, just thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Bye, everybody.